Congratulations on making it through the big interview process. Now, you might find yourself waiting for the offer to come through, but the wait seems to take forever. So, why does it take so long for job offers to come through? In this video, we'll demystify the process and show you what goes behind the scenes in talent acquisition and human resources departments. Before we dive too deep, we want to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you're interested in more videos like this one. Not only does it support our channel, but it ensures that you won't miss any of our other posts. We bet you've all been there. You go through a rigorous interview process where you meet with numerous stakeholders and you just nailed it. The recruiter calls you up at the end and says, "The team was impressed and we're ready to make an offer." But then you wait and wait and wait, and before you know it, weeks have gone by and still no offer. It's frustrating, isn't it? Let us explain and discuss why it takes so long to receive a job offer by giving you a behind-the-scenes look at talent acquisition and human resources departments. The first reason for the delay in receiving an offer is the approval process. After your interview, the recruiter holds a debrief meeting with all the stakeholders who interviewed you. Each interviewer gives their thumbs up or thumbs down on moving forward with the offer. If there's near unanimous agreement, the offer process starts. After the team agrees to make you an offer, the Human Resources Department or Talent Acquisition Group will begin to determine the details of the offer. They'll review notes from your initial interview with the recruiter, including your compensation expectations. They'll also analyze local market wage surveys and wage data for your industry, as well as their own internal salary bands, which typically have a minimum, midpoint, and maximum, or a 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. Generally, they try to keep your salary at or below the 50th percentile to maintain internal equity and allow for future salary increases. If you started at the top of the range, you may not receive a raise at all for several years, which could lead to dissatisfaction and lower retention rates. Large companies typically follow this process, although smaller companies may handle it differently. After considering factors such as market wage surveys and internal salary bands, the company looks at internal comparators to determine a salary offer. If a candidate's salary expectation is higher than the average for the role, the company may need to make strategic decisions or come up with a more creative offer that doesn't affect the rest of the group. The Human Resources Department and hiring manager work together to figure this out, while also advocating for the candidate's best interest. This process typically takes at least a week, and if the salary expectation is too high, the company may need to consider enriching the role. Once they have the information and come up with an offer, it goes through an approval process, typically involving 3 or 4 layers of approvals. The first is usually the hiring manager, followed by the hiring manager's boss. Then there's usually a human resources approval involved, typically by an HR business partner who's separate from the talent acquisition group. In some cases, the recruiting team or talent acquisition team may have final approval, but usually it's to move it towards presenting the offer. The recruiter will create the offer letter and then contact you to present the offer and go through the negotiation process. This process, even if smooth, usually takes at least a week, potentially more. If the salary expectation stretches the salary band, the Human Resources Department may sit down with the hiring manager to determine whether they want to enrich the role. If you're someone whose salary expectation stretches the band, remember that companies who feel like they're stretching to get you now will expect even more from you. It's essential to target the right role that aligns with your level of experience. Otherwise, you might find yourself setting up for failure. One thing that can slow down the offer process is the unavailability of the approvers in the approval chain. If someone is on vacation or in business meetings, it can be challenging to get their approval. Unfortunately, we are at their mercy to some extent. Sometimes the senior manager may not be on the same page as the hiring manager, and they may have different ideas about the ideal candidate for the role. When this happens, the offer process may come to a halt, but it doesn't necessarily mean you won't get the job. They may be re-evaluating the role or scrutinizing it more closely. To take it a step further, there are times when someone in the process says, "Actually, we want to see a full slate of candidates." This can cause recruiting time to be extended by several weeks and slow things down. However, if there's a candidate the company really likes, they'll usually push back on the hiring manager and explain that candidates are usually only actively engaged for 2 or 3 weeks. But some hiring managers are adamant about seeing a full slate of candidates, which can take time. Additionally, depending on the company providing the offer, there may be a lot of extra steps that are needed behind the scenes that are more administrative or procedural, which could potentially slow down the process. This can be due to things like slow software systems, steps in a process for checks and balances or auditing, process bloat, and process creep. It's important to be aware that these issues can arise. Let's face it, sometimes the recruitment team can be slow. The recruiter may not get the things quickly enough, the hiring manager might forget about the offer or not approve it fast enough, or the human resources team might not get information back to the recruitment team in a timely manner. There are many moving parts, and sometimes slowness, inattentiveness, and overloaded recruiters and hiring managers who have other positions to fill can cause this particular job to take a back seat. Regardless, it's not a good candidate experience when the process takes so long, and it's a major frustration for most recruiters. Recruiters don't enjoy a long process to get you an offer either. They want to fill those positions as soon as possible so they can move on to the next one. Hopefully, this insight into the offer process helps demystify things if you're waiting on an offer that's taking a long time. You can give the hiring team a nudge, especially the recruiter, and ask for a time frame without feeling bad about checking in every 2 or 3 days. The recruiter has a sense of urgency to get the offer approved so that they can give it to you and get a position filled. If you're anticipating an offer soon, check out our video on 10 signs you should accept the job offer for valuable insights and making a sound decision. Thanks for watching, happy job hunting, and we hope your offer doesn't take too long. See you in the next one.